Well, Duke, where the hell are we going today?
We're gonna go to Pinchabolio's record ranch.
Oh, Lord, not that asshole again.
Bless his heart. The same. Now get on your horse. Well, hey everybody from the great state of Texas. It's time for another episode of Pinchabolio's Record Ranch. I am Bolio. Happy New Year to everybody. This is the first episode of 2023. Hope you guys are doing good out there. Today, I want to talk about Anthem of the Sun by the Grateful Dead. Oh yeah, this is wild and crazy and psychedelic. Just the way I like it. This is probably the wildest album they ever made. Came out in 1968. I don't really want to go into the backstory too much because there's something very specific I want to talk about in this video that we will get to. But the band, well, I'll summarize it. The band was learning how to work in a sound studio. And, sorry, I'm crunching on a cough drop here. The band was learning how to work in a sound studio. What works, what doesn't work, and doing a lot of experimentation with the equipment, along with experimentation with other substances, shall we say. It's Grateful Dead, right? And the end result was an album that took a very long time to make, and Warner Brothers was very pissed off at them because, you know, they're having to pay for, Warner Brothers is having to pay for studio time every single day while these guys are just bombed out of their minds trying to figure out which microphone to use and why this sounds different than that. You know, it's crazy. They got a nasty letter from Warner Brothers at one point, and Grateful Dead wrote back an equally nasty letter. But at the end of the day, the band mixed the album themselves, and they felt very, very proud of themselves, and everything was cool, everything was fine, until the master tapes went to the mastering engineer, and this poor guy, you just imagine, he's spooling up the tapes, pushes play, and he goes, oh my god, oh man, fire up the coffee pot, I got my work cut out for me. In order to make a good lacquer that'll make a good record, you had to scale back a lot of things. And Jerry Garcia felt that, you know, the end result was a record that was kind of dull and muddy. So in 1971, he pulled out all the original unmixed tape elements, stems, as they're referred to sometimes, pulled all that stuff out and had the album remixed from scratch by a professional mixing engineer. So that is what I want to talk about today. The fact that there are two different mixes of the album. If you've never heard Anthem of the Sun, I suggest you get on YouTube, look for the 50th anniversary edition, because that contains both mixes, and you can compare and contrast, find out which one you like, which one you don't like, maybe you like both, I don't know. But, you know, it doesn't cost anything, just get on YouTube and listen to it, and then you can go from there. But what I really wanted to focus on today was, if you're out shopping for a copy of the album, because there's two mixes, how do you know which one you're getting? Well, let me start off easy first. First and foremost, let's just get the easy part out of the way. If you're buying a brand new pressing of the album, look at the hype sticker on the shrink wrap. It should tell you which version you're getting. Is it the original 1968 mix, or is it the 1971 remix? It should say on there. And there's a number of examples that I'm going to have, I've got popping up on the screen right now, because this album has been reissued a number of times over the last few years, along with a lot of the other albums the Dead did. So, finding a new pressing should not be that difficult, and determining which version it is should be equally piece of cake. I'll get my grammar right here in a minute. As far as older copies of the album, that's a little bit of a different story. Now, I'm going to have to get really detailed, and I don't want to confuse everybody. So if I start speaking very slowly and very methodically, just bear with me. I'm just trying to make sure that I don't make this confusing for everybody. I want this to be as easily understandable as possible. And before we begin, I want to talk about the center labels. Those are the actual paper labels on the record. We're going to start off looking at a few examples of labels that were used from the late 60s to the very early 70s with Warner Brothers, and what's the differences, the years this label stopped being used and that one started being used. This is going to aid us in determining which version you've got in your hand. So let's start off with some information. In 1967, Warner Brothers merged with Seven Arts Productions. Now, originally, it was on the film side of the business, but in the beginning of 1968, it also became a record label. So, beginning of 1968, now you have Warner Brothers Seven Arts Records. And here's the label right there. You see it's this pukey green thing. It has an orange square with a blue W7. And this is the label that was on all Warner Brother records from 1968 to 1970. In 1970, Seven Arts split the sheets with Warner Brothers, and the label went back to being good old-fashioned Warner Brothers, and they started using this label. You see, the color schemes are the same, but instead of the square orange box with the W7 in it, now you see a blue and orange Warner Brothers shield. That's really the only change. And the removal of the Seven Arts name on the top of the label. And that label was used from 1970 to 1973, when Warner Brothers came out with the Burbank labels. Now, as far as talking about the labels, we're going to stop right there because we don't really need to go any further with that. Those two green labels, those are really the ones in question. So let me show you here. This is the copy I just held up. This is my original pressing. As you see, it's got the Warner Brothers Seven Arts logo, like I just showed on the screen a moment ago. This is, or let me rephrase it. If you see this label, guaranteed 100%, it will be the original 1968 mix. However, after 1970, remember what I said a moment ago, you go from having the W7 to the actual Warner Brothers shield. Again, that's 1970. And the remix didn't come out until 71. Okay, well, what does that mean? That means if you're digging through the crates and you find a copy that's got the Warner Brothers shield on it, you basically have a 50-50 chance of getting one mix or the other. Okay? At this point in the game, the label no longer tells you what's what. So you have to look for something else. So, with copies that have the Warner Brothers shield on it, what you need to do is look at both sides of the record, the dead wax on both sides of the record. And if you see this symbol stamped in the dead wax, again, on both sides, that's going to be important later on. Okay? This symbol stamped on both sides of the record in the dead wax, that is the 1971 remix. If you don't see this, then it's the 1968 mix. Now, real quick, what is this? This is the logo for Artisan Sound. They were the ones who handled the lacquer cutting and mastering for the remix. And if you know anything about Artisan Sound, that means that the remix has a 1 in 3 chance of probably being worked on by our buddy on this channel, Kevin Gray. You know, even if he didn't actually cut the lacquer, he probably had some involvement in there. So, as a side note too, I'm going to have Kevin back on here pretty soon, and maybe we can get Baraka P. Dub on here. We'll have a roundtable kind of thing, discuss stuff like that. I can ask him then, see what's up. But anyway, if you see that Artisan logo, actually, let me just go back and restate everything. You see the W7, it's the 68 mix. If you see the Warner Brothers shield, it could be the original mix. Then again, it might not be the original mix. So with the WB shield label, what do? Look at both sides of the dead wax. If you see the Artisan Sound logo, then it's the remix. If you don't see that logo, it's the original 1968 mix that the Grateful Dead did. Okay. Now, that's that. Okay, that's it in a nutshell, right there. However, Notice I kept stressing, look at both sides of the record. Look at the dead wax on both sides of the record. Why? Because there are pressings out there that have the 68 mix on one side of the record and the remix on the other side of the record. So if you find a copy that's got the Artisan Sound logo on one side and not the other, they switch the stampers. So at this point in the late 60s and really up to about the mid 70s, Warner Brothers was having all their records plated and pressed at Columbia Records pressing plants. So somebody at Columbia dropped the ball, and they're pressing records, and hey man, a stamper broke. I need another B stamper. Oh, okay, pull that off the shelf. Is that they probably didn't even know. They might not have even been told that there was a recut done on it. So, that's what I just now realized. That's something else to look forward to. You'll see the Artisan Sound logo, but also in the matrix code for the 71 remix, it'll say RE. I wanted to bring that up because that's an important thing. That's something that we still use to this day. RE means recut. Like I said, we just still use that to this very, very day. If you ever look at a record in the matrix code and the dead wax and you see RE, that means that somebody probably listened to an original cut that the mastering engineer did and went, I really don't like the bass needs to be a little stronger on that, or I really don't, it's kind of soft, so somebody had to go back and recut it. So that's what RE is. And if you see RE1, RE2, RE3, then somebody was really having a tough time with this client. So anyway, that's a little side note there. So so you got to be really careful because there are pressings out there that have the original mix on one side and the remix on the other. Interestingly enough, this wasn't just one little odd batch. There were copies of the album just like this all the way up to 1975. I don't know why. So some plant must have had a back catalog of these stampers. Oh, we found some more, throw them out there. Okay, use that. There's a side A for you. But it's a different mix. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter. They're not going to know the difference. So, that's that. Now, every copy you find from 1971 on will be the 71 remix with the exclusion of the messed up, mismatched stampers. Something else to note is in 1975, for some unexplained reason, the album cover, as you can see here, has this nice bluish purple background. For whatever reason, in 1975, there were copies that came out that have a white background. I'll put that on the screen here. And as quickly as that showed up, it quickly went away. I don't get it. I don't know what's going on with that. So, but anyway, that's really all I wanted to talk about today. This was kind of a quickie video. And I hope it wasn't that confusing. I love learning about stuff like this, so I want to pass that on to you guys. And like I said, hopefully it was easy to understand, because sometimes
I'm kind of retarded. In that...
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's going to be it for today. I've got a couple more videos I'm kind of working on right now. I'll be coming down the pipe, be taped soon. And with that, hope you guys are all doing okay. I'll talk to you later, man. See you down the road.